Janet Yellen, United States Secretary of Treasury, and distinguished guests. It is my great honor and privilege to welcome you to the LG Science Park R&D campus, where the future of LG Chem's battery material innovation begin. Earlier today, I was inspired by substantive and engaging conversation with Secretary Yellen regarding our future roadmap around the battery materials supply chain. This is because the EV battery initiative, launched and driven by LG Chem and our subsidiary LG Energy Solution, would have never become a reality if not for our special relationship with the United States. It was far back in 2000 when LG Chem started full-fledged research and development activities on lithium-ion batteries with the establishment of the Research Center in Detroit, Michigan. It was in North America, and specifically in the United States, where we unlocked new opportunities to continue with our vision, even when the future of electric vehicle at the time looked rather dim. But motivations like the awarding of Battery Development Consortium project with U.S. Department of Energy in 2004 allowed us to continue our pursuit of a commercially viable EV battery development and commercialization. At one point, when we were on the verge of de-emphasizing this entire pursuit, we were again encouraged and re-energized by being selected to be GM's exclusive battery supplier for the Chevrolet Volt in 2009, which was a watershed moment that propelled LG Chem to eventually becoming a leading global EV battery manufacturer. This year marks the 30th anniversary of our battery research and development journey. Secretary Yellen's visit at this time seems to be herald the beginning of an even more historic journey together with the United States. LG Energy Solution is now firmly positioned as the leading global EV battery supplier, with cumulative future-dated orders secured in excess of $220 billion. At the same time, LG Chem is embarking on its strategy to become the world's most comprehensive battery materials company by playing a pivotal role in the global battery supply chain. The plan includes investing $4.5 billion by 2025 solely in battery materials to build a diverse product portfolio of cathode materials, separators, carbon nanotubes, just to name a few. Through our special relationship with American automotive OEMs, we hope to continue to advance our vision to develop and provide new-to-the-world innovations to EV industry in the United States. LG Energy Solutions has been operating its Michigan battery plant since 2012. Ultium Cells, which is a joint venture between LG and GM, is in the process of building full-scale battery plants in Ohio, Tennessee, and Michigan. Furthermore, LG Chem is actively considering establishing a cathode manufacturing plant in the United States to strengthen the battery supply chain. Collectively, all of this battery-related investment for localizing our supply chain in the United States exceeds $11 billion cumulatively by 2025. LG Chem will continue to invest in battery recycling technologies and capabilities to establish a closed-loop ecosystem of battery materials throughout the entire life cycle of battery supply chain. For example, the United States, we invested in Li-Cycle, which is the largest battery recycling company in North America. This alignment will enable us to secure recycled nickel from 2023. In Korea, we are also establishing a joint venture that will produce cathode materials from recycled metals extracted from used batteries and process wastes, with plans to begin mass production from 2024. From an ESG perspective, we are fully committed to 2050 carbon net zero goal, and we have plans to achieve this goal by decarbonizing the entire supply chain using various tactics like 100% renewable electricity, responsible sourcing initiative, process innovations such as CO2 conversion technology. Secretary Yellen's visit to LG Chem and LG Science Park today is a testament to the special relationship and unique history that LG Chem shares with the United States. Secretary Yellen's interest and support with LG Chem's battery material business and supply chain will lead to even greater mutual cooperation and innovation in our future success in the United States in terms of revolutionizing electric vehicle penetration and proliferation. Now it is my tremendous honor to have Secretary Yellen here today with us. Please welcome the Honorable Janet Yellen with a big round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much, and thank you for the opportunity to tour the Science Park today and get a firsthand view of the work and the innovation that companies like LG are doing here. Facilities like these testify to the dynamism of the Korean economy. The ingenuity, the industriousness you see here really helps to explain how Korea has grown to become one of the most productive economies in the world. That ingenuity is shared by workers and entrepreneurs both in the United States and Korea, and it's really part of what's made our two countries such strong economic partners and close allies over the years. Our economic partnership continues to grow, including Korean investments in the United States. As you noted, LG recently announced investments in electric car battery plants in Michigan, Ohio, and Tennessee. Hyundai has similarly announced investments to build electric cars and batteries in Georgia, and Samsung has announced plans to build a major semiconductor chip factory in Texas. Meanwhile, the United States has bolstered its investments in partnerships with Korea, including the Korea-U.S. Global Vaccine Partnership, which included U.S. vaccine makers Pfizer and Cytiva partnering with Korean firms on vaccine production. And the POSCO and GM partnership, where the two countries are diversifying their supply chain production for battery inputs with factories in Korea, Europe, and Canada. By deepening our economic ties and making our supply chains more resilient, we're really seeking to resolve the sort of bottlenecks that are raising prices for consumers in both of our countries. As anyone who's tried to buy a car recently can tell you, global shortages across supply chains are raising prices. Auto companies will tell you about how those same shortages are slowing down production and idling factory lines. And that's actually true in far too many sectors of our economy, where challenges in our supply chains are fueling the inflation that Americans are feeling in their day-to-day life. But by working with key allies like Korea to develop stronger supply chains for key components like EV batteries or semiconductors, we can make both of our economies stronger and help ease these blockages that have led to higher prices and delays for American workers and businesses. Supply chain resilience is a key focus of the Biden-Harris administration. And the necessity of this work has been illustrated clearly by the events of the past 2 years. First by COVID-19 and our efforts to fight the pandemic, and now by Russia's brutal war of aggression in Ukraine. Together, they have redrawn the contours of global supply chains and trade. Economic integration has been weaponized by Russia, and to great effect. Right now, Russia is threatening to spark a global food crisis by blocking ports in Ukraine, and its invasion of Ukraine has already caused energy prices to rise in America and across the world. It's clear that no country will be spared from the consequences of Putin's illegal war of aggression. All responsible countries must unite in opposition to this war and work together to end it swiftly. And that's why the United States and other responsible allies and partners are seeking to reduce Russia's revenue to wage its war without causing unnecessary volatility in global energy markets. We seek to impose a price cap on Russian oil exports. By imposing such a cap, we can deny Putin the money he needs to fund his war of choice, while dampening high gas and energy prices we're seeing around the world. And at a time when inflation is unacceptably high in the United States, the price cap is one of the most powerful tools we have to address the high cost of gas. But we cannot do it alone, and we will need global partners to work with us. These recent shocks to the global economy have refocused global attention on the importance of economic resilience and addressing supply chain vulnerabilities. Working with allies and partners through friendshoring is an important element of strengthening economic resilience while sustaining the dynamism and productivity growth that comes with economic integration. Friendshoring is about deepening relationships and diversifying our supply chains with a greater number of trusted trading partners. The purpose is to lower risks for our economy and theirs. In doing so, we can help to insulate both American and Korean households from the price increases and disruptions caused by geopolitical and economic risks, and facilitate our businesses' access to vital inputs and products, from medicine to semiconductors to electric vehicle batteries. In that sense, we can continue to strengthen the international system we've all benefited from, while also protecting ourselves from the fragilities in global trade networks we have seen over the last few years. The Biden-Harris administration has not sat idly under these challenging conditions. On the domestic side, we're investing in our ports, airports, highways, waterways, and clean energy infrastructure. That's thanks to the historic investments in the bipartisan infrastructure law. We're also calling on Congress to build on that process by passing the Bipartisan Innovation Act. And that's legislation that will invest in supply chain resiliency, in the R&D and commercialization of new technologies, and in making more semiconductors in the United States. The failure to make those investments in the past has resulted in bottlenecks throughout the entire U.S. economy, and particularly in the automotive sector. Workers and consumers are paying the price for that now. We recognize that it's neither feasible nor desirable for the United States to address its supply chain vulnerabilities alone. Even as the United States makes investment to expand domestic production capacity for some critical products, as I mentioned, we must work with allies and partners to secure supplies of critical goods that we will not make in sufficient quantities at home. We must work with America's allies and partners to strengthen our collective supply chain resilience while ensuring that high standards for labor and environmental practices are upheld. The United States is also pursuing supply chain resilience objectives through international forums such as the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, the US-EU Trade and Technology Council, and other regional and bilateral initiatives. In that regard, the Biden-Harris administration recognizes the critical role that the private sector can play in making supply chains resilient. The United States has taken steps to work with the private sector and leverage financial and development tools to promote supply chain diversification. A recent example is the Development Finance Corporation's announcement of a $500 million loan to support solar panel manufacturing in India. To make our supply chains more resilient, we need to maintain strong economic ties with critical allies like Korea, while lessening the risks associated with the overconcentration of key supplies in unreliable countries. We do not want a retreat from the world, causing us to forego the benefits it brings to the American people and the markets for our businesses and exports. The efficiencies we gain from strong bilateral ties with friends help drive down prices and support U.S. jobs, workers, and consumers. By taking a more strategic, long-term view of the vulnerabilities in our economic relationships, we can ensure that the trade we engage in will continue to make our economies more innovative, productive, and resilient. Of course, economic resilience is not just about trade and investment ties. Russia's illegal war with Ukraine has also underscored just how vulnerable we are to global energy shocks. Like the United States, Korea has been hard hit by rising commodity prices, including energy price spikes caused by the war in Ukraine. Even as we work to expand the supply of oil and gas in the short term to lower prices at the pump in America and around the world, this is really a reminder of the importance of accelerating the global transition to clean, renewable sources of energy in the medium to long term. Having domestic sources of renewable energy means we won't be at the whims of authoritarians like Vladimir Putin, even as we lower emissions and energy costs. It also means at the facilities here and in the factories I mentioned that are being built across the United States, we're building the backbone for the world's transition to a greener economy and the new green jobs of the future. In particular, the supply of electric vehicle batteries that LG is helping to secure with your investments in America are vital for these intertwined goals of bolstering manufacturing, lowering energy costs, and reducing emissions. We must also strive to make the United States and our partners and allies safe from the arbitrary and politically motivated actions that constitute economic coercion. As Korea knows very well, economic integration with certain countries can come with heavy costs. Trade dependencies can give authoritarian regimes leverage to extract concessions and undermine the rules-based international economic order. They can put democratic governments who are accountable to the citizens who elected them at the mercy of bullying by authoritarian leaders who can subject their citizens to painful economic costs. Countries across the Indo-Pacific and throughout the global economy, we remain vulnerable to countries using their market positions in raw materials, technology, or products to exercise geopolitical leverage or disrupt markets and trading activities for unrelated reasons. One such example is China, which has directed significant resources to seek a dominant position in the manufacturing of certain advanced technologies, including semiconductors, while employing a range of unfair trade practices to achieve this position. One of the ways we can address this is by modernizing our approach to trade integration, by properly taking into account externalities arising from concentration of supply chains, geopolitical concerns, and value, rather than overly focusing on costs. To be clear, China has benefited enormously from being part of a global system, a rules-based multilateral system. And I think we ought to try to preserve the best features of that system, a system that's been beneficial to the United States and to our allies, while working to address the real problems that have emerged, including unfair Chinese practices that damage our national security interests. In modernizing the multilateral trading system, our objective is to achieve free and secure trade that benefits our workers, businesses, and consumers. We cannot allow countries like China to use their market position in key raw materials, technologies, or products to disrupt our economy or exercise unwanted geopolitical leverage. Well, the United States and Korea share a common goal of a free and open Indo-Pacific, but achieving it will take resolute action. The Biden administration has not and will not shy away from that responsibility. The United States and our allies like Korea will work together to continue to demand strong adherence to norms and values that have underpinned the international economic order. We will impose harsh consequences on those countries that abuse or break that order, as we've demonstrated with our unprecedented response to Russia's aggression. And we'll work with allies and partners through the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework to help lower costs by making our supply chains more resilient in the long term. So to conclude, I want to thank you for the opportunity to see the important and innovative work you do here at LG Science Park. I want to thank the workers and researchers here and in the United States for deepening the long-standing partnership and alliance between the United States and Korea. The interlinkages that connect us must remain robust against the shocks we have recently experienced, and we will continue to work with our partners and allies to strengthen the vibrancy and resilience of our economic relationships. I look forward to deepening cooperation with Korea and across the Indo-Pacific going forward. Thank you so much.